Oh, look, so many potential new members. Yeah, this was all just a guise to get new members in the Rotary, but I'm very excited today to have this opportunity to have this mayoral candidate event. And I'm just thrilled to see such a great turnout. What we're going to do is you'll see how a Rotary meeting starts, and then we'll have the event, and there'll be opportunities to ask questions, and we'll be finished by precisely 1 o'clock. Okay, so that's how we like to run a Rotary meeting. So we're going to start off with O Canada, and I'd like to ask Cindy Baum. Cindy, are you, yes, to start us off, please.
Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love, in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Great, thank you. Please sit down.
I feel like clapping out.
And now we will say the things that we drew for Rotary, the four-way test. And this is what we say at every meeting. Number 1, is it the truth? Number 2, is it fair to all concerned? Number 3, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And number 4, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Well, thank you, and I would like to now welcome the candidates for the mayoral position. And just a little bit of some details on timing. We have Terry Moore. Terry, stand up, please. Terry is our official timer, and whenever the time limit comes, Terry will give a bell. Terry, please. And if they do not respond to that, you'll give 2 bells. Please, Terry. And if things get out of hand, I have this. So I think this is going to be going very well. Now, just to give you some information, each candidate will have 4 minutes. Terry, actually, do you want to just fill them in on what it is? 4 minutes for...
4 minutes each. After 3 minutes, I'll give you a 1-minute warning with the single bell. And after 4 minutes, the bell will go off.
Okay, and during the meeting for questions?
During the meeting for questions, the questions will be given 2 minutes for the answer. And I believe Anita is...
Yeah, 30 seconds for the questions. Anita, where are you? Now, Anita will be the runner, and she'll be passing around the mic. And once you hit your time limit for questions, Anita will grab the mic from you, okay? So we'll keep that going. And at the end, for closing?
Will be 3 minutes each to give your closing comments.
Okay, so we've already decided on the placing for speaking. Jeff, you'll be first, correct? And then Tony?
Yep.
And then Morgan. Okay, Jeff, please go ahead.
All right, well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jeff Genung, Mayor of Cochrane, and good afternoon. It's awesome to be back here at Rotary and seeing so many familiar faces. I want to thank you first for organizing this. It's good to have all of our candidates in front of everyone and for all of you to get to know all of us. But more importantly, I'd like to thank you for everything that you do for our community. Service above self isn't just Rotary's motto. It's something that captures what makes Cochrane, our home, so special. Every day the people of Cochrane get together and shape a better future. And that's why I'm running for re-election as your mayor, the future. Over the past 8 years as your mayor, I've been humbled to see the spirit of the community every single day. Every event I attend, whether it's put on by local service clubs like yourself, small businesses, or residents volunteering their time, when Cochrane comes together, we get things done, just like the MTA this past weekend. We've accomplished a lot in the last 4 years, from new roads and bridges that have reduced congestion and improved safety to keeping taxes low and stable, to ensuring local businesses remain competitive and sustainable. I've built strong partnerships with our neighbors in the province because, like good community, being a good neighbor is how all good community building starts. In fact, one of the most exciting examples of collaboration is the town working right now together in collaboration with Rotary on the regional trail connection between Calgary and Cochrane. This is a visionary project, one that will connect communities, promote recreation and tourism, and strengthen our region's sense of place. This means a lot to me, and I've been honored to sit on the owner steering committee with Rotary, and I'm proud that together we've submitted that federal grant that will hopefully fund that bridge over the Bow and be a key piece to making that dream become a reality. Ensuring our hidden gem, Cochrane's trail system and natural areas are taken care of, enhanced, and usable is one of my key priorities, both in the past and moving forward. In fact, as mayor, I supported the purchase of the 26-acre parcel of land down by the river, and which it will obviously be a true anchor for the future of that trail system, making it a recreation gathering space and access for everyone in our community. It's a once-in-a-generation opportunity, a decision that ties together our love of nature, our commitment to connectivity, and our vision for the future. Now, I've said this from the start that one of the biggest challenges our community is facing is growth. There's a lot we must do to deal with it, and of course, building community hubs is one of those things. That's why I'm so proud that another key community cornerstone project is the library, and I've championed that as mayor, and I will continue to champion if re-elected, a new community library. I've long believed a modern library can be much more than just books. It can be a true community hub. That bell really set me off there for a minute. I got 1 minute. A space for connection, learning, and innovation. It can be a place that brings people together across generations and sparks the kind of ideas that makes Cochrane thrive. We can only plan and build for the future if we have strong relationships. The reason Cochrane continues to move forward is because we've built strong, trusted relationships with our residents, with our community, organizations, and with every level of government. These relationships open doors for funding, for collaboration, and for long-term planning. They aren't built overnight. They're built over years, through mutual respect, credibility, and consistent leadership. Right now, Cochrane has momentum. We're on the cusp of seeing years of hard work pay off with projects like the trail, the library I mentioned, major transportation improvements, all converging. But that momentum depends on maintaining those relationships that we've built. A change in leadership now risks setting that progress back.
Hello everybody, my name is Tony Archer. I've seen some of you at least once, right? I happen to fix probably almost half of Cochrane's computers at any given moment. I'm running for mayor, and my vision for Cochrane is to continue seeing it moving forward. As Jeff has so succinctly put, we are at a cusp of a major change in Cochrane, and it's been growing at an unprecedented rate, and we can keep this moving forward and keeping things efficient. Now, there's been some concerns about, community stability and what exactly our money is going towards. However, I think that we can carry this forward with a more accountable policy designed to ensure that everybody knows where their tax money is going and ensure that the projects that we all care about are financed. Now, I've never been elected before, and I've never been in local politics, which is kind of going from the deep end into the frying pan. Now, I hope that you'll all give me a chance, and I have much more succinct points on my website, as I am not a very good public speaker, and I would like to apologize for a terrible speech. I concede my time.
As many of you are all aware, Cochrane is experiencing unprecedented growth challenges. We continue to be among the quickest growing towns, not only in Alberta, but also in all of Canada. And that has created a demand for quite a number of, I'm losing time to the squeal. The growth challenges that we are, sorry, can I restart maybe at that microphone?
No, I'm going to turn it
Oh,
You
okay.
speak much louder.
Sure, all right. Would I be able to restart based on the?
Go right ahead.
Sure, thank you.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. So, in Cochrane, we've been experiencing unprecedented levels of growth. We've continued to be among the fastest growing towns in not only Alberta, but also much of Canada. And as many candidates will assure you and remind you, this means we have a lot of infrastructure and facilities to build. The library is a great example. We also need new recreation, additional roads. The list goes on and on. But the real problem we're experiencing in this pressure is that the cost of all of these projects, due to inflationary pressures, have gone through the roof at quite a market level. And on top of that, the cost of borrowing has also gone up. The days of borrowing at 1 or 1.2% interest are long behind us. And at the same time, our provincial government is giving us less grant support than they have in the past. And the combined effect of all of this is a serious financial challenge ahead of our community. And after I've considered all of this, I have come to the conclusion that the only logical path forward is for Cochrane to try and grow slow our growth to a sustainable rate which we can afford to keep up with. And in order to do that, there are two key misconceptions that I feel are deeply entrenched in our municipal government today that I hope to change. The first of those misconceptions is the belief that growth is actually good for the town's finances. I have heard a great deal of time that growth is paying for growth and that bringing more residents into our community is broadening our tax base and making taxpayers better off. In reality, the growth is actually the largest pressure on our entire municipal budget. And that is why we are projected to hit our debt limit in years to come without a solution in mind. And the issue I really want to raise to everybody's attention is the reality that we are falling further behind in this issue because the only way we can ensure that Cochrane is able to afford the $1 billion worth of projects we have is to get more money from development. But since we have fallen behind on our planning for those projects, we're leaving money on the table. There are houses being built today which are creating a demand for additional infrastructure and facilities, but those homes are not paying their fair share of the future growth. And that is something that I hope to change. It also brings me to my next point, the second misconception and belief that I hope to address in our municipal government. And that is the belief that we can do nothing about the growth that Cochrane is experiencing. I disagree. Yes, there is a large amount of growth that has already been approved, which we cannot impact, but our growth is not just about what has been done in the past, it is also about what is coming in the future. We recently acquired water rights for up to 100,000 residents in this area, and I feel quite strongly that on the trajectory we are currently on, we are not going to be prepared to receive 100,000 total population in our community. And I do have a real plan to address this. The problem that we face in our municipal government is that when a developer comes forward with an application, if they check off all of the policy boxes, we are somewhat obligated to approve their development. However, I want to change the policy boxes that they have to check off. I want to create a sustainable growth framework. And that starts with setting a sustainable growth target of around 2 to 3% instead of a 5% rate. And then on top of that, when it does come time to actually slow down the growth, we need to reinforce the necessity for that policy by showing that Cochrane cannot afford the growth pressures we are experiencing. And then when it comes time to build, I suggest that instead of saying, no, you can't build, we're just going to say, not yet. And that can be achieved through the urban reserve zoning, a tool that we have in our toolbox, but has not really been used very much. The City of Calgary has done something like this through their growth management overlay, and I'd like to see us implement a similar policy here in Cochrane. I believe we can and should implement a sustainable growth policy in our community, and it is the most important issue that I intend to tackle should you elect me. My name is Morgan Nagel, and I hope to be your next mayor.
Great, thank you, gentlemen, for your introductory statements. Now it is time for questions. Just remember, questions are a max of 30 seconds. And also, please say who you are directing your question to, if it's an individual candidate or if it's to all three candidates. Anita will be the runner, and so just put your hands up and we'll work our way around.
So I will start on this side of the room and work this way. You have 30 seconds to ask your question. I will also be holding the microphone just to help keep control of time. Please introduce yourself as well.
So in 30 seconds, she's just walking away from me.
Hi, I'm Bruce Tanis. With the growth of Cochrane, we've seemed to have papered over an important problem. in economic development, there is kind of a rule of thumb between the tax split between 75 and 25. And 75% should be residential and 25% should be commercial. We are nowhere near that. And other communities have recognized that, fast-growing communities like Airdrie. I want to ask the candidates, what do you guys plan to do to encourage the growth of our business community, not just our residential?
Who would like to start? Okay, Tony, yeah, please.
Okay, thanks for the good question here, Bruce. My intention to make sure that Cochrane has a thriving business community is to reduce a lot of the barriers that prevent the development and usage of commercial property, to which Cochrane is relatively low in supply, which has led to some pretty, at least in my opinion, ridiculous commercial rents. And in turn, this has forced a lot of small businesses out of their spaces. Now, if elected, I would seek to eliminate those policies and allow for the easier development of these new commercial spaces, as well as the merging of different property lots together to create new commercial space. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony.
I can go next on this one too. Go ahead.
I believe the most powerful tool that municipal governments have in this regard is our land zoning. And what I'd like to see is an intentional strategy to use that zoning tool as a way to require landowners who want to develop their land to be zoning for particular commercial and industrial uses. How I see this shaking out specifically is there is a large demand for developers who want to build higher density residential homes. I'm talking about apartment buildings that stack up on top of one another. And I think that we should have a strategy in Cochrane that directs that high density growth towards our downtown core, but with a catch. If they want to build high density residential Cochrane, we should also be requiring that they have to put commercial space on the lower floor of those buildings. And not only is this going to drive Cochrane's business, it's also going to add to a more vibrant downtown core where there's great businesses such as yoga studios or restaurants or little shops where they can support local businesses, and it'll create a very livable environment downtown. Beyond that, we also need to get more intentional about our use of the industrial zoning. We're even seeing some conflicts now over on the side of town where the gravel pit is already causing problems in precedence, and residents, or the landowner also wants to build a concrete batch plant there. We have industrial zoning bumping up against our residential zoning because we haven't adequately provided a strategic region that we can have industrial zoning happening. And in the future, if and when Cochrane looks to expand our borders, I think we need to have a serious consideration put in place for an industrial zone towards the south side of Cochrane so that it's nice and close to Rocky View County and the highway that the industrial users will no doubt need to access.
Thank you, Morgan. Jeff?
Yeah, great answers. A lot of that, I think what we need to do is work with existing business. Obviously, we have a very high residential to non-residential ratio. That's something we've been working on for years, but I think we got to think bigger. Small business is important. I've talked about that. I am a small business owner with my wife in Cochrane, but we need to think bigger than that. We need to build relationships with existing businesses in Cochrane, like Garmin, for example, have them understand how important their relationship with our community is so that they can expand right here in our community. And there's a plan in place to do that. I've already been doing that work. Garmin is looking to move their technology and engineering headquarters to Cochrane from Olathe, Kansas. Sorry, I always want to say Texas. But that's a small, or one big business that will make a big difference in our community. Those other items of increasing our border, of course, we're going to have to annex in the future, identify non-res lands around our community, and it's going to have to be a strategic, planned exercise the council needs to roll up their sleeves together and get after right after the election. Our community with the fast-growing pace is going to have, this is just one of many barriers that we have in front of us. And slowing down Cochrane's growth while increasing the commercial is going to be a tough task because a lot of those businesses that want to be here want population. So when you talk about doing mixed use residential in the downtown core, that's going to drive our community's population up at the same time. So there's a balancing act that needs to be done here. One of the other things that council has done already is when we approved, the only neighborhood we've approved since 2017 was Greystone. And part of that you'll see it's 2/3 non-residential. That's where the co-op is, that's where a hotel is going to go, and other light industrial.
Good, thank you, Jeff.
Hi, I'm Lorraine. I live up in Sunset, and we've just had an absolute abomination of townhomes that have been built in one small area. Is this going to happen again? Because in Sunset we have only one way of getting out and not two ways. It seems that just our community has one way of getting out and that is it. And the price of houses have gone down by $50,000 because of this that's gone up on there.
I can
Jeff
take
and the
that.
other candidates, yeah? Okay, Jeff, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for the question. You're referring to the high-density residential that was put in Sunset? Yeah. I'm going to be the first to say that when that was brought to my attention, I dug into that with our planning department. And that was something they should have caught. So part of our growth has meant a great deal of pressure on our organization, and that is a mistake that has been made, and we'll own that. I think part of being a leader is not just pointing fingers, but taking responsibility for things, and that is something that we're going to improve in the future. And I've been leaning really hard on our planning department for that. As far as one way in and out of Sunset Ridge, that is something that we've heard for years. That's why we actually annexed that 40 acres at the very north end of Sunset. There was an original second entrance into Sunset plan for there way back when that area structure plan was approved. It was deemed very dangerous by Alberta Transportation and the Melcor, the developer, for where it was going to be. So that's why we moved our boundary north. That second entrance now, Rohit bought that 40 acres. So now we have two developers we need a relationship with, but they are paying and planning for that second entrance into Sunset. That's happening shortly after the election here, I think early in January. There will be a temporary access built to accommodate construction, and then the construction of that second access is coming soon.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Morgan, do you want to?
Sure, I'd add.
I would echo some of what the mayor has already said on this matter, but then I would also take it a step further. I think it's really important we need to ensure that, and for those of you who aren't quite fully aware of the issue that we're facing, there was a number of townhomes built and it's right beside someone's house. Like we're talking pretty much stick your hand out the door and you can touch it. And the person who owned that original home was not aware that this was going to be happening. But we need to go into our policy documents and actually be looking at ensuring that this isn't happening in future developments. And this is where it comes down to addressing our urban density. We need to be ensuring that we have within the land use bylaw a broader requirement for minimum setbacks for larger lots, more parking, and this is something that I have consistently voted in this direction. The entire time I've been a councillor, over 12 years, I have voted against increased densification of our planning documents at pretty much every step, and I would like to see some of these policies reversed. And further to that point, we actually have density targets of 8 to 10 units per acre. I would like to see that widened to 6 to 10, or maybe even 6 to 12, so we can have a broader diversity of options within Cochrane, and then we need to make sure that the land use bylaw is ready to handle it. The secondary point is the accesses in and out of Sunset. I also believe our town needs to have a firm policy that no medium to large size neighborhoods are allowed to be constructed without more than one entrance in and out of the community. And that means access for vehicles as well as pedestrians and cyclists as well.
Okay, thank you, Morgan. Tony?
All right, thank you, sir. You got it? Yep, I sure do.
Okay, I pretty much agree with most of their statements. I'm only going to have one slight deviation, which is I do not believe that the town needs to protect people's property values. This is kind of a conflict of interest within the town in its own right. It should be planning for what is best for the community, not as what's best for property values. As for a properly functioning market, you can't have a massively skewing force, and I believe that if given the freedom to do so, developers and entrepreneurs will fill the gaps that our community needs. The only thing the town needs to work on is making sure that there's better accessibility and infrastructure, as that's the core of its responsibility. Thank you.
Good, thanks, Tony. Next question? Earl?
I can speak, I think, without the, I hear a lot here about growth. And that's common in any community, I think, across Canada. I don't want to see Cochrane just become another suburb of Calgary. But I didn't hear anything about a vision relating to maintaining our culture and heritage. As all as I hear about is business and growth. Can somebody address the preservation of our heritage and culture as a town in Cochrane, not as a suburb of Calgary?
Yeah, Morgan?
I apologize we haven't had the opportunity to get to that yet. You can only fit so much into the limited 4 minutes we've been given. But our culture and heritage is of top of mind for myself. For me, it begins with protecting our historical and cultural events, such as the Cochrane Lions Rodeo and the spaces that those organizations operate in. So our Cochrane Lions are asking for a long-term commitment on the rodeo grounds, so that they can operate not just the rodeo, but invest in their event center, which is going to host way beyond just rodeos. But it already is hosting other events, and they want to do even more, but they need a long-term commitment in order to move it forwards. Now that's the event side of things. On top of that, it is also a matter of the build form that prevents Calgary from taking over Cochrane. If I could tell you the one thing that I hope to achieve in our municipal government, it is ensuring that we have a plan that Cochrane is not taken over by Calgary the way the Greater Toronto area has taken over everything over there. We have pressure coming, and when that Costco gets built just on our doorstep, the pressure is going to explode out this way. And we can't make it so that land won't be used for anything. And this is where I believe we need to be zoning for lower density residential, so that Cochrane can be surrounded by a belt of green spaces and country residential homes and small acreages. I would like that from the edge of that Costco, you essentially have Monteras and Bearspaw and Springbanks and green spaces surrounding Cochrane. But that is going to take an intentional lower density strategy, because if we allow the free market to do as it will, we will have Fireside, where I live, extending out to that Costco. And I don't believe that that is going to allow Cochrane to feel like a unique and unique community that stands out from being just part of the Calgary sprawl.
Thank you, Morgan. Tony? Sure.
Okay, well, I personally believe, and this microphone's not working the greatest for me, so can everybody hear me just fine?
Just hold it closer.
Okay.
Tony, hold it closer to your chin.
Okay, can you hear me better now? Yes. Okay, perfect. Okay, so in my case, I believe that Cochrane has a beautiful heritage to it, and I want to protect a lot of our historical buildings. Right, I've worked a lot with the Cochrane Historical Preservation Society, and as working with CHAPS, I've seen a lot about our history, and I want to keep it that way. Now, realistically speaking, I think that as a community, we're going to be continuing to grow. Even if we try to stop it, Calgary is just going to continue to metastasize towards Cochrane. And so our best strategy is to get the maximum use of the land that we currently have and be less focused on annexing more territory. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Tony. Jeff?
Yeah, I love the question. Cochrane's culture is really, I think, steeped in its people and our surrounding. Cochrane is growing quickly because we're the nicest place in the entire world to eclipse the Cochrane Hill and come down into the valley below. I mean, why wouldn't you want to live here? I've heard that from thousands of residents. That was their initial statement of why they wanted to move to Cochrane, was coming over that Cochrane Hill. We need to do our best in preserving our natural surroundings. The river valley, Big Hill Creek, we have so many riparian areas, and that's going to take relationships with Rocky View County, with the city of Calgary. And by the way, Calgary doesn't want to come west. They want to go north, east, and south. It's too many acreages in between, too many hills, and that's a good thing right now. But we need a relationship with our partner to the east, because what they do affects us obviously tremendously. So one of the ideas that I had, and this was when we were going through our rec culture master plan that we're actually doing right now, so all of those things fit into that plan, was that we take a look at what are we doing really well. And our trails are spectacular. I talked about them in my 4-minute opening, that they're a natural hidden gem for Cochrane. But what is something else we do really good, and that's bronzes. So perhaps we need to start to really build off our strengths and put some bronzes on our trail system somewhere. This is just an idea, I'm spitballing here. But it's something, we have the Bronze Foundry in Cochrane. We just unveiled and rededicated the Men of Vision statue. Everybody who thinks about Cochrane thinks ice cream and that man on the horse, which is everyone on the horse, by the way. But that is just one thing that we can do. Preserve that Cochrane Hill forever. Make it our Nose Hill Park, so that anytime anybody comes over that Cochrane Hill, despite how we've grown in the future, they still have that same experience, and that gateway is protected forever. So that's a big part of that. Others have talked about downtown and creating our historic downtown and maintaining it. That's also key to that.
Great, thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Great. Michael?
What is your idea about how Indigenous people fit into the picture of the future of Cochrane?
Okay.
So I recently spoke about this at the forum at the book, the Found Bookstore, and I'd like to share the same words here that I shared with that group. Firstly, when it comes to truth and reconciliation, something I haven't shared with the public very much that I'd like to mention is my grandmother actually grew up in a residential school. And so I do have personal experience with the stories of the abuse that has happened in Canada's history, and I also know the damage that it has had in people's families. That being said, my view for Canada's, not just Cochrane's, but all of Canada's relationship with our Indigenous communities, I would like for us to move onto celebrating Indigenous culture. I think we have spent lots of time on the truth part of the truth and reconciliation formula, and I believe that the future should be the reconciliation part, where after we've acknowledged all of the past mistakes made in Canada, we move on to celebrating why our Indigenous culture and history and heritage matters. And I'm glad that our mayor just brought up the Man of Vision statue, because one of the ideas that I have in this regard is, wouldn't it be great if we partnered with Cochrane's Indigenous neighbors to actually build a reciprocal statue over in their territory as well, so that we could have a clear event that marks us looking eye to eye with our neighbors as equals and really enjoying our shared future.
Great, thank you. Jeff?
Great questions today, guys. Indigenous relationship. This is something I feel very strongly about. And something I took very seriously when I became mayor in 2017 was our relationship with Stoney Nakoda was not good. I'll just be blunt. And we needed to lean into that. And we've done that over the last 8 years. You've heard me talk here at Rotary about the Sept program, the Canadian, or what is it, the Communities Economic Development Initiative for First Nations. Cochrane got that grant from the federal government to spend 3 years working with Stoney Nakoda on economic development initiatives. And the greater good that came out of that was not so much economic development, which we're still working on a few items together on, but it was being in the same room. It was looking at each other across the table and treating each other like partners, like people. And that's where it starts. And I've talked about this every time at Truth and Reconciliation Day, or anytime I can speak to anybody about First Nations. And that is, it's up to us to want to lean into that relationship. It's hard. It's uncomfortable. We have to be vulnerable. We shake. We're worried about what we're going to say or what we might say that might be wrong. You just got to say it. And we got to start those conversations and shake those hands. One of the things that in a relationship that really, really matters is showing up. We have to show up for them. And what I've learned in those 3 years working together was that we have 100 years of catching up to do. And we need to just keep leaning in, even when it feels like no one's listening. They are. Showing up is what matters. And that was really disappointing to me when our council at the last, about a year ago, signed a proclamation with First Nations, the Chiniki, the Goodstoney, and Bearspaw Nations. We signed a proclamation together. And we only had Councillor Flowers and I attending that proclamation signing. And I felt embarrassed for our community, that we as a council can't even show up together at a signing for a proclamation. Showing up is half the battle. So that is what I continue to do in the future as mayor, is continue to reach out and build relationships with First Nations.
Thank you, Jeff.
So when it comes to Indigenous relations with Cochrane itself, I personally am of the preference that the Indigenous people of Canada have essentially been put into economic ghettos by the federal government. That was the intended effect. And much in the similar themes to maintaining the reconciliation aspect of truth and reconciliation, I believe that Cochrane should be able to extend a healthy business community to which can employ young Indigenous people and help repair the relationship between ourselves and the Indigenous people beside us. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony.
Miles Chester, I'm with Rotary. This question is to specifically to Morgan. Morgan, I know you're a very, very busy guy in your own business right now, and the job that you're looking at getting as mayor is going to be a full-time job. So I am curious as to how you're going to handle your existing position and job and your new mayoralty job should you get elected as mayor.
Well, Mr. Chester, former councillor Miles Chester, I actually really appreciate the opportunity to speak to this because I think what I have heard from people who are considering voting for me, but they haven't quite decided yet, they say, look, Morgan, I think you'd make a great mayor, but I want to know, do you have the time and capacity for it? And the answer is absolutely yes. I do believe that in order for me to affect the change in our ranch house that I want to affect, I need to be in there full time. But the reality is I can't do it part-time. And that is actually why I've made the decision to step down from the part-time councillor role, walk away from that and say I'm going all in or I'm done. And if I step back, or if I do get elected, I will be there Monday to Friday, starting at 8:30 a.m. all the way till 4:30 p.m. at the latest. I'll be attending all of Cochrane's most important events. I'll be going above and beyond to work very, very hard as I do in all of my endeavors. Now that also doesn't answer the other question as to what I am doing about my business. I have a transition plan to hand off a large portion of my responsibilities. By the way, for those of you who may not know, I have the part-time role on council, and I have a full-time business where I work in public relations and provide digital services to oil and gas companies, well, groups that advocate on behalf of oil and gas companies. But I do have a transition plan. I've spoken with my clients. I have brought on 3 more subcontractors to my company that are taking over my hands-on duties. I've also identified a 4th individual who's already expressed a willingness to come on as the project manager for my company, taking over the leadership. And so I have a company that I'm going to take a step back from and put it on the back burner, not because I need the job of mayor, but because I feel so strongly that if I don't go in there full time and try and do the things that I believe this community needs done, nobody else is going to do it. And it's not because I need the income or because I need the role. It is because I believe it is incumbent upon me to try and do this. And you have my word. If I'm your mayor, I am not going to let you down with my work ethic. You may disagree with how I view issues. You may disagree with the things that I say, but nobody who knows me thinks that I'm not a hard worker.
Okay, I'm curious, who has the responsibility? Who determines how much green space a developer has to include in their development? And then who monitors? Who's got the responsibility to monitor that commitment is actually held? And this question is coming up because of all the work that's been done by the residents up on River Song. Starts with a W.
The Willows?
That neighborhood.
The Willows?
The Willows. They had a green, what do you call it, with the water?
Wetland.
Wetland, thank you. That they had to fight to keep it as a wetland instead of letting the developer do whatever the heck they wanted to do with it. That kind of stuff confuses me. Who's got control over the developers? It feels like they've got all the control.
Thank you. I'm going to start with Jeff.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. That's a pretty technical, I keep corded mics are the best. Pretty technical answer, but to start at the top, when a developer comes to our community and says they, any community in Alberta, and says they want to develop a neighborhood, we take what's called municipal reserve, MR, we call it for short. And MR is all of the green space. And 10%, so if it's 100 acres that's being applied for, 10 acres goes to the town for a school site, for pathways, for parks, all of the green open spaces. There's also what's called environmental reserve, and those are wetlands that are classed to be preserved through the Water Act, through Alberta Environment, not to do with the town. And also the slopes, over 15% grade slopes we have a policy that says those are undevelopable, and those also go off to the side. After that, there's developable land, then that's what turns into a neighborhood. So out of that 10%, like I said, we have to build, that's where school sites go. And sometimes we have to get creative and put developer with developer with developer to get enough land in an MR to have a school site. But then to jump to your question about the wetlands, I was happy to vote in favor of preserving the wetlands in the Willows. It was something that the developer had the right to do under just the open market, to come forward to apply as any business owner. And I'm not saying it's good or it's bad, just in the laws of our province, they had the ability to come forward and ask for that. And we then look at that and go and say, yep, it makes sense, or no, it doesn't. So I was happy that our council voted in favor of preserving that wetland in the Willows, and there's going to be development around it, not in it. So that's a kind of a roundabout way of answering your question, but it's a very complex one because there's so many entities involved. In the Willows, that developer applied to Alberta Environment to disperse the wetland, I guess, and Alberta Environment actually signed off and said it was okay. So that's how it started.
Good, thank you, Jeff.
I don't know, I didn't hear, I keep hearing bells. Yeah.
Okay, hello everybody again. So when it comes to protecting the environment, I'm a very strong environmental steward. I think that the town, in its limited capacity to be able to fight back, as Jeff aptly placed, a lot of provincial laws supersede our authority on this. But we should try to mark out locations on which we want to preserve for now and the future in advance, so developers don't even bother submitting applications that are ultimately going to waste everybody's time on places we don't want developed. And if elected, I hope to build a comprehensive map of where these locations are in consultation with various communities so that this never happens again, and we don't get a situation where we are fighting a developer who, following their own self-interests, wants to fill in the wetland, even if we don't want it as a community. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Morgan?
So I consider myself to be an environmental conservationist. When people talk about what it is they love about our community, I think almost everybody will mention our parks and green spaces and the beautiful natural environment we have around us as the starting point for what they like about Cochrane. And protecting that is at the core of what I want to see done in our municipal government. Going back to my earlier point where I said I don't want an urban sprawl all the way from downtown Calgary to the Rocky Mountains. The way that I see us achieving this, on a micro scale, I do believe that the lower density residential development creates that space of more natural areas, just starting with people's lawns and backyards, where you can be allowed to have space to have a garden and trees and enjoy the outdoors on your own property. But going beyond that, I do believe that our municipal government needs to be taking additional steps to strengthen our own municipal green spaces. Something I think we've done too much is relied on development to provide for our parks and green spaces, but at a certain point we need to recognize that our parks are a community facility worth investing tax dollars in, not just hoping that landowners are going to provide them to us. And so I think we need to be looking at spaces such as the recently acquired land down by the rec center and the campground and dog park. We need to make sure there's something green and beautiful there, at least as a component of that property. And yes, that may mean we're going to have to forego some revenue and it might hurt our cash flows a bit, but it's an investment in people's ability to enjoy the outdoors, and it's an investment in our future. And going beyond that, I also want to make sure we're doing things to protect our local wildlife populations in Cochrane. Towns like Canmore have done a fantastic job of bringing forward wildlife corridor policies to ensure that wildlife can exist among the community safely and peacefully with limited interactions. We need to be looking at doing that here in Cochrane, and it needs to be taken into consideration while we're looking at our development. Now, at a regional level, we also need to be doing our part to engage with the province on the once-in-a-decade opportunity to amend the South Saskatchewan Regional Plan, which is the biggest planning document at a provincial level that supersedes every other municipal document. We almost missed the opportunity to do that, and I really am going to do everything I can to weigh in on the SSRP.
Great, thank you, Morgan. We have time for one more question. One more question.
Thank you. My name's Shannon Davison. I live in Riviera. This question intended for Jeff and Morgan, but Tony, if you want to have your opinion on this, I'd welcome it as well. What do you think it is that has caused some members of the public to lose trust in the current council and the relationship of the current administration CAO?
Okay, gentlemen, would one of you like to start?
Yeah, I'll take it.
Okay, Jeff.
This is that part of leadership where you have to lean into the hard questions. It's been a difficult 2 years on council, and I have done, I'd say, yeoman's work in urging our council to keep its eye on the prize, and that is focused on the priorities of this community and not on the antics or drama. I am done with the drama. Cochrane has enough growth pressures and enough issues facing our community that we don't need to be focusing on interpersonal relationships. One of the things that I think our council could have done a lot better is locked arms and stood with our administration and faced the pressures of our community head on. Instead, we divided, and some of our council chose to undermine and made it harder for the rest of us to get our work done. And that is not leadership, it's not teamwork, and I'm not suggesting that all of us need to agree on everything. We don't have to be best friends, we don't even have to like each other. But we were elected to lead this community, for better and for worse. And I'm telling you, there are a lot of initiatives and issues facing this community. You can see, you don't have to go very far. Traffic, well, we've talked about all of them today. I'm not gonna list them, I'll run out of time. But you need a group of individuals dedicated to show up, that want to be there, roll up their sleeves, want to meet during the day even. I've had a struggle getting our council to come to the table at times, to come to meetings. They put their full-time jobs first, and council has come second. We don't have time for that. The pressures on our community are great. We are the fastest growing community in Alberta, probably top 10 in Canada. We can't even miss a beat. We have to be all hands on deck all the time, pulling in the same direction. And again, that doesn't mean always agreeing. It means having healthy debate and then moving on after we make a decision. If council would have moved on after we've made a decision, when the majority has, all of those issues would have been dealt with 2 years ago, and we would have been back on to the issues of Cochrane.
Thank you, Jeff. Tony?
Hello, everybody. Now, naturally speaking, I haven't been elected, and I have minimal experience inside of the town's administration itself. However, to apply the first rule of the four-way test, I have not had an opportunity to speak to the CAO, so I will not say anything that could be prejudicial towards them. However, I have heard about some serious adversarial office politics within the town, and I think that it's a critical act for the town's administration to determine whether or not this is true, and if it is, get the town's government functional again and less hostile. However, I will pass it on to Morgan here, as he knows far more than I do on this particular matter.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Morgan?
Sure. This is a very big question facing our community. The first, before I get into the broader topic of trust and teamwork, I do just want to talk to a philosophical disagreement that I have with our current mayor about the role of council. The role of council is a part-time duty, and I actually, if I am mayor, will do everything I can to support that part-time duty. We will have council meetings in the evenings, as is currently happening. And when there are informal meetings happening at the ranch house, I believe it's 2025, people should be allowed to call in via Zoom or Teams, just as I do with all of my clients. That is a privilege which was denied to me as a councillor and everybody else on council, that when you wanted to call into a meeting, you weren't allowed to. And the reason I believe that council should be protected as part-time is we want to attract skilled individuals who are hardworking. And unless it's somebody who's already reached retirement age, that means all of those skilled and hardworking people are going to already have careers. We need to make sure that they have space to represent our community. I don't want to spend too much time there because I got to get to the more important point, which is the question of trust and working together. I did my best during this entire term to truly represent the interests of our government and not my own political position or grandstanding. I went to the extent of breaking my own comfort level to support a very large tax increase at the beginning of the term because I put trust in our administration, that we had an ambitious plan and we were going to deliver upon it. And then And one of the biggest criticisms that I heard from my own friends and supporters said, Morgan, how come you're not on Facebook and the news anymore? I never see you making a big fuss like you used to in the first term. That's because I realized I really needed to give our administration a shot to deliver on what they were trying to do. But starting about 2 years ago, when we could barely pass a financial audit, I began to realize that the trust that I had placed in our administration was misplaced, and things were not getting done. We have fallen behind on planning for our recreation. We have fallen behind on planning for our traffic infrastructure. We have fallen behind on delivering for a library. We are on track to hit our debt limit, and we do not have a plan to deal with it. And now we have a new growth pressure coming with up to 100,000 people living in the Cochrane area, and we're not ready for it. And I brought my concerns in private to my colleagues, and I said, we need additional accountability with our management. Things are not moving appropriately. There were a number of conversations, not in the media, where in the ranch house, I requested that we have a real change, and I was told no. And I decided to bring that change, I have to run to do it myself.
Okay, thank you. Great, thank you, Lord. Thank you. So I want to thank everybody for the insightful questions. It was an excellent session. And now we come to the final part of the meeting. And each candidate will have 3 minutes to wrap up. So, Jeff, do you want to kick it off, please?
I always have to go first.
Well, sorry? Yeah, go ahead, Jeff, please.
I'm getting rid of this chair. Oh, well, again, thank you for the opportunity today. With strong relationships, steady leadership, our community spirit leading the way, we can continue to build a town that works for everyone. One that keeps its small town heart while embracing a bright, sustainable future. Thank you for the privilege of serving as your mayor. And thank you again to Rotary for your leadership, your partnership, and your belief in what's possible when we work together. Together, we're not just building trails and bridges, we're building connection, community, and legacy for generations to come. I've lived in Cochrane nearly 50 years. My wife and I have raised 2 kids here. We have a small business here. We volunteered here, just like you. And when you've lived in Cochrane for 50 years, like me, you tend to know a lot about the community. But even with that experience, I'm always learning. Today was a good example of that. I want to leave you with a few final thoughts. First, I want to reiterate, I'm listening. I know that we face challenges, growth among them. We can't choose who comes to Cochrane. Most of the new development was approved over a decade ago, well before I was mayor. But we can choose how to manage it. When I say I don't want to choose who's coming to Cochrane, it is, and I've heard from many people, they're moving here because they want to be close to their grandkids. Or in our case, our kids want to move here. They have jobs in Cochrane and can't afford to live here. I'd like to help fill that gap. And over my 2 terms as mayor, I've guided Cochrane through historic milestones with a steady, collaborative, and common sense approach. We've navigated new challenges and opportunities. We've built strong partnerships and fostered the sense of community that motivated me to run in the first place and that I've known my whole life. That's why I'm running for re-election. I've approached the mayor's seat knowing that your ideas, not mine, need to shape Cochrane's future. It's why I focus my efforts on 3 things: showing up, listening, and leading with purpose. I'm committed to working collaboratively to manage growth, building new services, and keeping our community strong with positivity and inclusive relationships. Finally, I want to leave you with one final thought. I'm not going to leave here today and never come back. You know that I've been a partner of Rotary for a long time, and that doesn't end if I'm not elected mayor, or if someone else is on the stage up here. If I'm elected, I will be here at your side again. You know that to be true. Because at the end of the day, all I've ever wanted to be is a member of this great community that we call home. And thank you again for your time and for hosting us over lunch. Appreciate you guys.
All right, thank
I believe that in this upcoming election, Cochrane's voters have a choice. Continue on with the current trajectory of our community, maintain the status quo, and hope for similar or better results. Alternatively, try something different and be guaranteed different results and hope that they are going to be better. I sincerely believe that our community does need change. I also believe that I have the skills and experience to make sure it's a positive change in the right direction. During my career, I have proven that I'm an exceptionally hard worker, and that I also am able to get things done when I put my mind to it. Going all the way back to 12 or 15 years ago when I was in university, I put myself through my economics degree at the University of Calgary by working in construction and ranching. While I was there, I achieved high grades. I was on the Dean's List. And after that, I went on to work for the Conservative Party of Canada on Parliament Hill as a summer student in the Department of Public Safety. There, I was inspired to come home and run for council in Cochrane. I was elected at the age of 23 as one of Cochrane's youngest ever town councillors, and went on to be an outspoken advocate for slower growth, smarter planning, and a fiscal responsibility. From there, I continued to get further involved in politics, and I worked at a place called the Manning Centre for Building Democracy. It was a think tank organized by the former leader of the Reform Party of Canada, Preston Manning, the man who I believe is the best prime minister that this country never had. Preston became my mentor and one of my heroes, and to this day I still look up to him. From there, I got involved with the group that built the United Conservative Party of Alberta. And when the PCs and the Wild Rose Party needed to be pulled together, I got the opportunity to join with the hardest working team I have ever seen, under the hardest working politician I have ever met, Premier Jason Kenney, and I contributed to a small political revolution in Alberta where we replaced the NDP. And from there, I took those skills and applied my public advocacy and campaigning skills to the private sector. And I'm now paid to represent some of Canada's largest oil and gas companies in their need to get our economy back on track by building pipelines and other critical infrastructure. And you have my word, with all of these skills, if you give me the responsibility of serving this community, I am not going to put my business interests first. You will have to take a leap of faith on that, but I have a plan in place to transition out of my private sector responsibilities. I'm going to put them on ice. I'm not blowing up my business to do this, but I'm putting them on ice, and I'm going to give it everything that I have to serve Cochrane, to make it a better place, to get our growth under control, and to get our financial plan pulled together. If you believe me, I ask you to put your trust in me, Morgan Nagel, for your next mayor.
Thank you, Morgan. Tony, you have the last word.
Alrighty, well, I'm not a great public speaker. That is something I hope to improve on. I have a wealth of technical knowledge, and I hope that you can at least give me the chance to show it to you. As far as being conflicted on business time, I work 2 full-time jobs. Thankfully, my jobs are very easily done by computers, and I can keep them doing that job while I attend being mayor. And maybe in the future, we'll get more of the administrative tasks done by computers too. Now, I could go on for a very long time, and you are more than welcome to ask me all of your questions. You can email me, tony@newparty.ca. I respond to 100% of emails that I receive. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Tony. And please, everybody, a big round of applause for these candidates. They are doing an absolutely... They're doing an amazing job, and they want the best for Cochrane. And really, I think we're so fortunate to have a group of people who are really committed to this community. So we're wrapping up now. I think we're pretty much on time, which is my job, and of course, time at Terry. So thank you, Terry. And also, the meeting's ended now, but please feel free to talk to the candidates, to mingle about, amongst yourselves. With Rotary, fellowship is a big part of it. So again, any person who's never been to a Rotary meeting before, thank you for coming, and we hope to see you again. Terry, can you give the bell a big dong, please? Meeting over, thank you.